There's a company worth over $100 billion that most people have never heard of. It doesn't sell phones. It doesn't make cars. It doesn't even have a product you can touch. What it sells is something far more valuable: the ability to see patterns in chaos. Palantir Technologies has been called a savior by government agencies and a threat by privacy advocates. The CIA was one of its first customers. So were police departments tracking gang activity, and oil companies mapping pipelines, and hospitals predicting disease outbreaks. The question isn't whether Palantir is powerful. The question is whether you should be worried that a company this powerful exists at all. Let me show you how it actually works. Imagine you're a detective in 2003. You have a terrorism suspect. You know he made 3 phone calls to London. You know he withdrew cash in Hamburg. You know he rented a car in Miami. But that information lives in 3 different databases. The phone records are with the NSA. The banking data is with the Treasury. The rental car info is with the FBI. You can't connect the dots because the dots don't talk to each other. This was the problem that nearly everyone in intelligence faced after September 11th. Not a lack of information, too much of it, scattered, siloed, useless. Enter a group of PayPal veterans with an idea. Peter Thiel, who just sold PayPal to eBay for $1.5 billion, had watched his fraud detection team do something interesting. They built software that could spot patterns across millions of transactions, find the hidden networks, see who was connected to whom.
Thiel thought, if this works for credit card fraud, why not terrorism? So in 2003, he co-founded Palantir, named after the seeing stones in Lord of the Rings, literally magical orbs that let you see faraway events. Not subtle. Here's what Palantir actually does, stripped of the jargon. You give it your messy, disconnected data, spreadsheets, emails, surveillance footage, financial records, satellite images, anything. Palantir software integrates it, cleans it, then gives you a way to explore it like you're browsing the internet. You're not writing code, you're not running queries, you're clicking, dragging, visualizing. Let's say you're tracking a drug cartel. You upload phone records from the DEA, shipping manifests from customs, property records from the county, social media posts. Palantir connects them automatically. It shows you that person A called person B 17 times. Person B owns a warehouse near the port. The warehouse is listed under a shell company. That shell company wired money to person C, who just posted on Instagram from Medellin. Suddenly, you're not looking at data, you're looking at a story. And that story helps you make a decision, raid the warehouse, freeze the accounts, make an arrest. This is why the CIA's venture capital arm, In-Q-Tel, became Palantir's first investor, because the CIA had the same problem as everyone else: mountains of intelligence, no way to make sense of it. But Palantir didn't stay in the shadows for long. By 2010, it was being used to track insurgents in Afghanistan. Analysts could map IED networks, trace weapons supplies, predict ambush locations. It worked so well that the Army, the Marines, and Special Operations units all wanted it. Then came the private sector. JP Morgan used Palantir to detect insider trading and fraud. Airbus used it to optimize manufacturing. Merck used it for drug development. The LA Police Department used it to predict crime hotspots. Palantir went from a secretive intelligence tool to a commercial juggernaut. But here's the catch. Palantir doesn't sell you software and walk away. It embeds its engineers inside your organization. They work alongside your team. They customize everything. They become part of your operations.
It's intimate, expensive, and borderline addictive. Contracts run into the tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions. The U.S. Army signed a deal worth nearly $500 million. The IRS signed one for $100 million. Palantir doesn't just sell software, it sells dependency. Let's talk about the money, because the numbers don't quite add up the way you'd expect. Palantir went public in 2020, not through a normal IPO, but a direct listing. No roadshow, no hype tour, just here we are, buy the stock if you want. It opened at around $10 a share. Today, it trades near $80. The company is worth more than $100 billion. But here's the weird part. For years, Palantir didn't make a profit. It burned cash, spent wildly on sales, on engineers, on stock-based compensation. In 2020, it lost $1.2 billion. In 2021, it lost another $500 million. Investors didn't care. They kept buying. Because Palantir wasn't selling on profit, it was selling on narrative. The narrative was this: we're building the operating system for decision-making. Governments will need us, corporations will need us, and once they're hooked, they won't leave. The bet, essentially, was on lock-in. And slowly, that bet started paying off. By 2023, Palantir finally turned a real profit. Revenue kept climbing. The US government became an even bigger customer. Then came AI. Because here's what most people miss. Palantir isn't just a data company. It's positioning itself as the infrastructure layer for artificial intelligence. Think about it. AI models need data to learn, but most companies have terrible data. It's messy, inconsistent, locked in different systems. Palantir solves that. It already cleans and integrates data. Now it's adding AI on top. Its new platform, called AIP, lets you ask questions in plain English and get answers powered by large language models. Imagine a general asking, where should we deploy resources to prevent the next attack? And the AI, trained on decades of intelligence data that Palantir has organized, answers. Or a CEO asking, which factory should we close to maximize profit? And getting a recommendation in seconds. This is the dream Palantir is selling, and Wall Street is listening. The stock has tripled in the last year. But let's zoom out for a second, because something uncomfortable is happening here. Palantir has access to some of the most sensitive data on Earth: immigration records, financial transactions, battlefield intelligence, health data, criminal histories. And it's a private company. Yes, it has contracts. Yes, it follows laws. Yes, it says it cares deeply about ethics. But it's still a for-profit entity with shareholders to please and a CEO, Alex Karp, who once said the company is built to work with Western governments, not against them. That's a polite way of saying Palantir has chosen a side. It refuses to work with certain foreign governments. It's outspoken about supporting the US military. Karp has called Silicon Valley's pacifism naive. Which is fine, except Palantir also works with ICE, the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. That's led to protests. Employees have quit. Activists have called for boycotts. Palantir's response? We're not going to apologize for helping the government enforce the law. But here's the tension. The same tool that finds terrorists can find immigrants. The same software that stops fraud can enable surveillance. Palantir says it builds safeguards, audit logs, access controls, rules about how data can be used. But those safeguards are only as strong as the institutions using them. And institutions change, priorities shift, laws get rewritten.
So, where does this leave us? Palantir is not good or bad, it's powerful. And power doesn't have morality, it has direction. Right now, that direction is set by governments and corporations who believe more data, more analysis, and more AI will lead to better decisions. Maybe they're right. Maybe Palantir's software really does save lives, catch criminals, and optimize supply chains. Or maybe we're building a world where a handful of companies control the tools that decide who gets watched, who gets hired, who gets investigated, and who gets ignored. Palantir's market cap is over $100 billion. Its software runs in war zones, hospitals, banks, and police stations. And most people still don't know it exists. Which raises one last question. In a world where data is the most valuable resource, who do you trust to hold the keys? Because Palantir isn't asking for permission. It's already inside.